welcome to this global GEG broadcast. We'll be making a start shortly, and while we're waiting for everyone to arrive, why not head into the chat, let us know who you are, where you're from, your Twitter handle, and if you've got any questions that you'd like us to answer during the course of this evening, let us know there as well. Also, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button to make sure you stay up to date with all of the events being organised by us at Global GEG. We'll be making a start really soon. Thanks for joining us.
Hello everyone, and welcome to tonight's chat, or this afternoon's chat, depending on where you are in the world. We're going to be talking about what it means to be a coach, and the reason we're doing this is that over the last few months, as I've been working on coaching, I've learned that very few people know what a coach means beyond the US. So I thought it would be a really good idea to bring in a huge selection of coaches from around the UK and the US to share their experience. And they're all absolutely wonderful people, so hopefully you'll appreciate learning from them. My name's Kat Lamin. I am a Google Certified Innovator Trainer and Coach, and I will be hosting tonight's panel. So I'm going to start by bringing in some of my wonderful, wonderful helpers. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. Where are you from and how long have you been a coach? Starting with, alphabetically, of course, Becky.
Hey everyone, my name is Becky Lim. I am currently in Southern California, and I am an instructional coach at a K-6 elementary school district. So kindergarten through 6th grade, and I've been a coach going on 3 years now. I am a Google certified coach and trainer and excited to be here today.
Thank you so much for joining us, Becky. It's really great to have you here. Next up is the lovely Chanel.
Hi, I'm Chanel. I'm a primary school teacher from Ireland. I started my coaching journey in October of last year. So just 7 months ago, I started this journey, and I'm just thrilled to be here tonight.
Thank you so much, Chanel. I've got Scott next. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble bringing him onto the stream for some reason. There we go.
Hello, I think I'm here. Hello, good to be here. I'm Scott. I am digital lead at Bridgend College, which is a further education college in South Wales in the UK. I'm a Google certified trainer. I have submitted my Google certified coach, but not quite heard back yet. So I'm quite a newbie to the certification. But most of my job involves coaching, working one-to-one with educators across the organisation. So it's great to be here. And I'm looking forward to it.
Brilliant, thank you. And last but by no means least, everybody knows her. She's practically famous. It's Stephanie Howe.
Hi, everyone. So I have been a coach. This will be my 4th year, like ending. So I'll start my 5th year next school year. But my job is weird because I'm like a coordinator, but I do coach. So I also have like an admin license. So I see both sides, and I can kind of see like the district office side and then communicate that to the teachers. And sometimes I get stuck in the middle, which I think we'll talk a little bit about tonight. And I am a Google certified trainer, coach, and I think innovator. I think I answered all the questions.
Brilliant. Okay, so while we're talking, please feel free to drop any questions you have for our panel of coaches into the chat. We'd love to hear from you. But without further ado, I'm going to get on with asking the first question, which is, and I've got to check my notes. What does being a coach mean to you? So what does being a coach mean to you? I'm just going to give you a second to think about that one. And I think we'll start on this one with Chanel, whenever you're ready.
I guess I think being a coach means being supported. You know, it's not something you're left to do by yourself. This Google coaching journey is a place where you have a direct line, you know, to the coach program, to a super mentor, a truly helpful coaching cohort. For me, I had a training partner as well. That was through Kathy, who hosts the webinars and keep everything moving in the background. The coaching corners, the monthly webinars, and then the dynamic and proven coaching curriculum with the 5-step model that works. I think after completing the course, I still feel every bit as supported by the people I got to know, by the connections that I made on Twitter, working on building my PLN. And then by participating in and subscribing to the YouTube lives, the podcasts, the radio shows, the blogs, and the digital projects that all these amazing people do that's second nature to them. Being a coach means making connections and being connected to me.
Brilliant. I love that. And it's been really great because Chanel and I worked together when she was learning to become a coach, and it was really great to get to meet her.
Yeah,
anyone else have anything else they want to add to that? Gone very quiet.
So I love that she said coach is a supporter, and that's so true. Like, you have to support the teacher wherever they're at in their life. So sometimes it's personal and they're going through something in their personal life, and you're just like a counselor listening to them. And then another time you might be co-teaching with them. Another time you're sending them resources, and it varies teacher to teacher. It varies season in their life. But I think what I also love about a coach is just seeing teachers grow and just seeing them go in and have no idea how to use something or some strategy, and they have a problem, and you are using that design thinking process to kind of go with it and figure out what can I do or what can we do to solve this problem. And then just seeing their excitement on their face when you're like just teaming with them. And one thing that my teachers like always say is, they don't know what some people do at district office. And those people are super busy, but they know what a coach does. If you're present, if you're able to be there with them and kind of guide them through, they talk highly about you if you have that good relationship. And so then it's not like, oh, I don't know what her job is. It's like, we can't live without her. And that kind of comments that you hear. So I think it's just so important to be present.
On mute.
You're muted, Kat.
Of course I am. It's one of the things that I find most interesting about coaching. In the UK, it's not, certainly from my experience, it's not really a thing. And having now seen it in action, it amazes me how powerful it can be and how supportive and empowering for teachers themselves. Like, the whole curriculum from the Google certified coach is, you are not to judge the teachers, you're to support them, you're there to help them. How are you building relationships and all that? And I think that's so interesting. Anyone else got anything to add?
It's very personal as well, I think, isn't it? I think, we sort of touched on that, but if you go through the kind of certified trainer route, and most of the stuff that I kind of done before doing this program was kind of, big groups, you just kind of deliver a training session. You might sort of, follow that up, but coaching is far more personal. It's kind of working one-on-one. It's kind of building those relationships, and those relationships, I guess, are the critical factor in the whole thing, aren't they? Rather than just delivering your session and then you're kind of gone. And it's so much more effective and much more impactful, I think, to do that one-on-one working together.
Just add a comment there from Roxy. Being a coach means having the opportunity to help teachers become the best version of themselves, and that's it. That's absolutely it's so great. And there we go, one from Gavin: tailored training, understanding applications, helping people to find the answers for themselves. And that, it's just so incredible, such a great role to have. Thank you very much. Is there any more to add, or should we move on to the next question? Okay, so question 2, what do you think the most important role a coach has in a school? And I think we're starting with Becky.
All right. So I didn't jump in on the last one because it led into this one, which for me, the most important role is to be a supporter. And you're going to hear that a lot during this session, is coaches are meant to support. And so one thing to keep in mind with that is that as a coach, you never want to go into a session or a cycle, or at least I never go into a session or a cycle with a set agenda, this is what I need to accomplish, or I came into your classroom and I noticed you're not doing XYZ. Like, that's not going to get you anywhere. That is an observer or an evaluator, not an observer. That's an evaluator. We as coaches are not evaluators. We are supporters, and our most important role is to go in there and see what the teacher needs support with. Make sure that the support we're providing is aligned to either the standards or the school's goal or focus, knowing that sometimes it's going to deviate, but it is also our responsibility to make sure, we're not jumping in and helping a teacher implement something that isn't aligned to our school goal and all of that. But you are there to support. You are not there to push an agenda. You're there to help teachers create those engaging lessons where the teachers feel comfortable and they know they have someone to lean on. So for me, that's the role.
So important, that non-judgmental side of it. I just find that really empowering. Anyone got any more thoughts?
I think maybe from what Becky said, for me, I think it was discovering about how to create those authentic relationships with staff, because I realized that the coaching cycle can be a very private, personal journey for a lot of staff, one where they were having to maybe take risks and learning how to do things in a different, more impactful way. And really having to learn how to do that with, honesty, communication, and actively listening to them, was a way to work together so that staff are feeling very empowered and acknowledged through the whole cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott and Stephanie, do either of you?
I think as well, for like you sort of said, Kath, the coach in the UK is kind of, it's not really a thing. That's what you sort of said. And I agree with that. And I think, especially as you sort of start off and you kind of maybe the first coach in your organization, or nobody's kind of done that sort of thing before, it is important to define that role. It's important for the person that you're kind of coaching to understand that as well, and to kind of build that relationship, to understand what coaching is and what it means. And I think especially, for us maybe on this side of the Atlantic in the UK, defining that role, if you are thinking of kind of starting this journey, is probably really important as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to add too, it's all about relationships. If your teachers don't like you, or you're that evaluator person and you're not supportive, they are going to hate you and not invite you into their classroom. And so I think if you're just starting out as a coach, some of the things that I did was I never canceled. So if a teacher invited me to meet with them, I was on time. I didn't cancel, because that matters to certain people, being present, being on time. If I was running late, I let them know. I was just trying to build those relationships. And now that I have those relationships, not that I ever cancel, but they understand if something comes up and I'm running a few minutes behind. But at the beginning, if they don't know you, they need to trust you and they need to have that relationship built. So just being there, listening to them, giving them different resources. Another great tip is time saver tips for those teachers that you are maybe struggling with to get to use tech. Hey, I have an idea of how you can save 5 minutes. The teachers will take that and run with it. And so it's just being present, building those relationships with your teachers and listening to them. And also that evaluator role, don't do it. You are not there to judge them. They already feel enough judgment from every other pressure in their life.
Can I just say something really fast from experience? The minute you evaluate a teacher, or you go to admin and you share something from a teacher, even if it's a positive, because positives mean that they've probably grown from a negative, the minute you do that, it will spread like wildfire, that every session the coach goes straight to my admin and shares. Just don't do it.
For UK people, admin means senior leadership. And Steph, sorry, just picking up on what you were saying earlier. I know you've mentioned this before, but your toilet tips.
Yeah. So my toilet tips, or potty in the tech while you tinkle, or potty in the loo, I think is another word that you could use for the UK folks. I think you guys call the bathroom the loo, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So what I do is I make a Google slide document, and every month has a Google slide, and then I put them up in the bathrooms, and they're just 3 quick tips for the month. It might be, hey, check out Canva. Hey, check out how to schedule an email so you are not working 24/7. And if there is something you need to send it the next day during the working day. It might be something about putting in border around an image. Those quick tips that teachers can learn while they're using the bathroom are really helpful. And I actually had a complaint by a male teacher. I didn't have it for him in a nice visual place for him to read the tips, because I sat them down and I was like, well, you can look at it when you poop. But like, it was just a really awkward conversation. So make sure you put it for the males and you have it high enough for them to use the bathroom and read. And then also have it to the side for your females.
So we're 15 minutes in and we've already mentioned poop. We're doing well.
Yeah.
I'm just going to bring up a couple of comments we've had come through in the chat. So talking about what is a coach from Judy there, making lessons more engaging, help find what works. Gerardo, coach is a companion. And I think that's coming through really strongly. Everyone talking about that relationship. Someone who's supportive and adaptable from Gavin there. It's really nice. And actually really great one from Dave there. Hopefully coaching will be a bigger thing moving forward. And I know Chanel and Scott probably agree with me on that one. We really do hope it is a bigger thing. And yeah, just keep following those chats. We just keep seeing it all about empowering teachers. Coach is not a judge. And Judy brought flowers, which I quite like. So we'll move on to our fourth question. We're getting through them very quickly, so please feel free to drop any more questions you have in the chat. And of course, take your time. Anyone who's got anything else to add, please let me know. So, we just did, what do you think? Yeah. So what challenges did you face around becoming a coach? Scott, we're going to start with you on this one. What challenges did you face?
Sure. So, I think for me, like I've sort of already said, it was around that idea of defining the role. And, even though I suppose a lot of my job can be considered coaching, it's not something I've ever called myself or been called by anybody else. It's not kind of a word that's necessarily been used in at least our organization anyway. So I think, that was, so starting off, especially starting a coaching cycle and kind of going up to somebody and saying, kind of, do you want to be kind of part of this with me as I sort of do it for the first time? That was quite a challenge, to kind of define that both for myself and to understand exactly what a coaching cycle is about, what I'm trying to do, building those relationships, and so on. And I think if you are starting out, it's probably worth picking somebody and know quite well and kind of trust and have that kind of relationship with anyway to start with. Don't go in cold and just sort of go up to somebody you've never met and say, do you want to be coached by me? It might not go down so well if it's the first time you've ever done it. So yeah, I did pick somebody that I kind of knew and just sort of worked it out together, really. And I think that for me is what it's all about as well. I learned a lot through the process as well. It's definitely a two-way thing. You learn as much from them as kind of they do from you. And I think, once you've sort of defined that role, it does become kind of easier. The time thing is interesting. And I think I completely agree with what Steph said. You've got to be, if you say you're going to be somewhere, you say you're going to do something, you've got to do it. You've got to make sure you hit those commitments. Otherwise, you just sour that relationship, and it just... It breaks down, doesn't it? It's not as productive as it can be then. But in terms of, personally in Bridgend College where I am, I do have a very supportive senior leadership team. And, they were great, to be fair. So I didn't necessarily have those kind of challenges working with what you guys would call admin. But yeah, just that around that defining the role, I think is the biggest challenge that I sort of faced, at least up until now.
Yeah, that's really important. And I mean, it's so lucky that you've got supportive senior leadership, because not everybody does have that. And I think that senior leadership buy-in is really important. Does anyone else have anything to add to that one?
I wanted to touch on, sorry.
No, go ahead, Stephanie.
I wanted to touch on what Scott said a couple questions earlier, and then also what Roxy's saying. So Roxy's just talking about like her biggest challenge is redefining the role. That was my biggest challenge as well, because a coach does not fix your printer. A coach does not fix your projector. I don't know how, but yet you think I do. So we don't do a lot of things, but we do some things. And because I'm present in the buildings, teachers are like, hey, can you go fix the printer? The IT people work behind the scenes and they're like ninjas that come in and come out and you don't know where they're going. They fix your printer and I know you don't know their name, but it's them. But because they see you, they think you do that job because they're like, oh, Stephanie can do it. She does everything. And again, we're not break fix. Thank you, Judy. Yes, we're not break fix. And you have to protect that role. And if I didn't have someone my first year tell me that, like, you have to protect the role. You don't do that. You don't learn this. Don't learn how to fix the printer. Don't learn how to fix the projector. Just say you don't know. And if no one told me that, I would have been stuck doing a lot of break fix. And I'm just so thankful for that person to tell me that, because my first year I was like, I just want to help everybody. But now in year 4, you can't do it all. Once you have all those relationships built, once you have everything gone, if I'm still fixing the printers and year 1 and it's year 4 and I'm still doing that, then I have to figure out what am I not doing as a coach? Because there's some rules in there that are more important, and you need to work with your break fix people and talk to them about, hey, can you come support me? Because this is my role and this is your role. And you really do have to have those tough conversations, because teachers will think you do everything because they see you. They know your name, where they might not know those tech guys.
I mean, I struggle with that as a teacher. I would be the person who would fix the photocopier more often than not, just because Kat knows how to do computing, so Kat can fix things. So you're absolutely right. I mean, as a coach, yeah. Anyone else got more to add?
For me, it was coming from a background where I had no experience of coaching, believing that I could do it. And Kat was my mentor. She can kind of attest to this, that, you know, I questioned why I would be learning about coaching with these incredible innovators and trainers and mentors and, you know, people whose names that I knew from Twitter and from watching YouTube lives. And then suddenly they were right there in front of me on screen, and we were talking about, you know, common struggles and common issues that we had, and trying to figure out what I had to offer, if anything, to the coaching program, and wondering if it was a case of the right place for the wrong time. But having the support and encouragement and finding my way through that, you know, with lots and lots of help, and realizing how I could put the coaching journey into my school, into, you know, my environment, my school community, and actually make it work.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember you saying at one point that you were sort of trying to balance your teaching role with the coaching role, and just figuring it all out with your senior leadership team.
Yeah. And a bit like Scott, you know, I have a great senior leadership team who are kind of making the adjustments. And like Stephanie was saying, I kind of had to look at my role and say, right, well, because it's got, you know, some wires and a plug, is it my job to do that, or is my time better spent, you know, doing something else? And kind of negotiating and delegating and reevaluating what my role was, and putting that, you know, with the senior leadership team, and agreeing with, you know, them how that was going to move forward and what that would look like to really, like everyone said, you know, to protect your coaching role.
Absolutely. I'm seeing a few comments in the chat. We've got the struggle between management saying, what are you actually doing? I need reports, and teachers saying, thank you, please don't report. It's a really difficult one to navigate. Has anyone got any tips, advice, or experience?
I have some tips. I don't know that like they work for every situation, but I've built those relationships with my admin, with the senior leadership. I spent a lot of time building that relationship. And I've also shared with them the many reasons why coaching cycles need to be confidential. I share with them, you know, obviously if there's something major happening that would need to be reported, I would report that. But my role is not to go in and evaluate. So we talk about that. We talk about the benefits of me being that support who doesn't evaluate. And I make it super clear from the get-go. I won't be coming to you after each coaching cycle and sharing what happened unless the teacher gives permission. So that's another thing. There are times where I'm working with a teacher and I'll say, you know, I don't know that you're the only one in the school that's having this set challenge. Is this something I could take to your admin? I could share it with your admin, and we can figure out a way to maybe get a couple of you in a book study or a couple of you in a cycle like that. So I'm getting approval first. And if the teacher says no, the answer is no. I don't take it to admin because there's a reason they don't want them to know. And the reality is admin knows a lot of what's happening anyways. They don't need me to be their eyes. That's not healthy for any of us. So And then, yeah, when it comes to like filling out my coaching cycles and all of that, I let them know who's in a cycle. Teachers know that admin knows that they're in a cycle, but that's about it. That's all I share without permission.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Just that we keep emphasizing that it's building those positive relationships. No one's going to want coaching if you're not supportive.
Yeah, and I think too, your teachers will share with the admin as they get to know you. Like in TBT meetings, I'll hear my name pop up like, oh yeah, I'm working with Stephanie on this. They might not say it's a coaching cycle, but then they explain like what we're doing and what's going on. So I also have them. There's a program that's called Connect Hub. And so if you use that program, it can track your coaching cycles and then it gives you numbers. I have a couple colleagues that use Google Forms, and it's really helpful also to track your hours. I know it takes a lot of time out of your day, but tracking your hours, tracking who you're working with allows you to know who's been in a coaching cycle this year, who am I not checking in with, or who do I not have a relationship with that I need to check in with. Do I need to reach out to this teacher? You can put different notes down, and you can also see like, oh my gosh, I've spent most of my time in this building or this department or this grade level. And you can really drill down to what you're doing as a coach. And then you can reflect on that information and decide, okay, I need to look up more innovative ideas on math. So I can help our math department, and maybe I can share an idea with them and get in that way. Or maybe I can go to this teacher, talk to them, and then work my way through all the other teachers. So I think it's really important to track your data. And I think if teachers or coaches or principals, not coaches, if principals needed to see that data, you can provide them numbers instead of like names. So I'm like, I've been working with 13 teachers in your building, and these are it also can graph on Connect Hub, like what you're working with them on. So maybe it's like reflection or lesson delivery. You can track all of that, and then you could share that with them. But again, I don't want to share names because I need to protect those teachers.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Anyone got any more to add about the challenges before we move on? Okay, so our fourth question, actual fourth this time, not the third last time. What other roles do you have apart from being a coach, and how do you balance your time? And I think we're going to start with Stephanie.
All right, so there's so many jobs in that other jobs category, other duties assigned category that you don't realize you're signing up for. Sometimes it's research. You're researching best strategies to help a teacher or looking up different ideas to implement. So you spend a lot of time maybe on Twitter building your PLN. Some other things like you'll go to conferences and connect with other people. That's like huge. If I didn't have my PLN, I would struggle so much with just knowing like, does Google work today, or is it just our district? You know, like those type of questions that you can quickly reach out, or, hey, I'm struggling with this teacher. Does anyone have ideas of what I could do? And then people can reach out and share with you. I think another rule is looking over data, looking over student data and looking over, did our strategies work? Did they not work? Talking with the teacher and reflecting on that. And I think too, sometimes when you are a coach, you are behind the computer, maybe checking email or doing those type of tasks. And I really struggled with that, especially this year because of the amount of video calls, and my teachers would walk by the room and I'm like, they just see me sitting here and they don't see me helping in a classroom. Like I'm helping through a video call, like Google Meet. And so I really struggled with that because you have to get your teachers to trust you. And if they trust you, then they're like, okay, she's not just doing random stuff on her computer. Like she's actually maybe researching, or she's creating, or she's talking with another teacher. So that was kind of hard for me. Like, I don't know if anyone else struggled with that or if that was just me. But just that feel of like, oh my gosh, they're always behind their computer type of attitude. But those are just some of the things that I can think of as other jobs as assigned.
Yeah, so for you, you're officially a coach, it's your full-time role, but actually as a coach, there's a lot more going on. Whereas in contrast, I think certainly for Scott and Chanel, it's an additional role on top of what they're doing. It's so interesting, the contrast between the different places. So what, Scott, Chanel, Becky, do either of you want to answer?
Yeah, I'll go. I mean, yeah, so it's barely even an additional role, you know, it's kind of just all kind of thrown in part and parcel of what I do, I suppose. In terms of other roles I do, I'm also a curriculum manager for the IT and computing department. So I lead that team of lecturing staff who teach computing and IT. And then sort of the kind of main bulk of my role is overseeing sort of digital professional development for staff. So we have 800 staff, I think, in our college, around that, of which about 350 are lecturing staff and the rest are business support. So we have quite a sizable finance team and HR team, all kind of administrative business support teams as well. So a lot of what I do is kind of working with them to improve their sort of digital skills as well, to get them kind of, on our Google journey, and to just kind of develop the training packages for those staff and for our teaching staff, and to kind of lead the digital strategy. So yeah, digital lead is the title. So pretty much everything, the way I say it is everything to do with software is kind of me. If it's got a plug, it's the IT team, which is not me.
Okay.
I like that way of wording it. Oh, am I cutting out still? Am I good?
No, you're good. You're here.
Okay, cool. Sorry, everyone. I like that. If it's got a plug, then it's not me. That's cute. I know, and true. I know for me, I've got a variety of different roles, especially like I focus on creating all of the science curriculum and pacing guides and lesson plans for my district. So that's a big part of my role in doing all of the science trainings, which is a lot of fun. But I wanted to share, as I was cutting in and out for a second, I was hearing all of these different roles. And one thing that I found helpful, and Steph, I think you were touching on this, like having your staff walk by and see you on video calls. One thing that we do in my district as a coaching team is we share out our calendar. So we share out our coaching calendar with all admin across the district. And then we can also make the choice to share it with teachers, but it lets them know what we're doing. And we plug in that time for research. We plug in that time for growing ourselves. So that way others can see, oh, she's on a video call, but it's probably during one of her coaching cycles, or she's in a conference right now. So that way she can better support, because we can't send the entire district to that conference. So sharing out your calendar seems scary and intimidating, but I actually have found it more helpful than hurtful.
Yeah. Really useful.
Yeah. For me, it's slightly different because I'm in primary school. I'm full-time teaching. So the coaching role, and my role is ICT coordinator, where I do have, the development of policies and practices, but I am the general ICT technician as well as the purchase and setup of equipment and, the tech support for hardware and software. It kind of comes through me and goes to the second line. So for me, it's trying to get a balance between, when I'm coaching, when I'm using my time for that kind of tech support, and I'm trying to kind of build practices and procedures for staff to give them more, kind of involvement in that themselves.
Yeah, I mean, there's no such thing as just a single role in education. We all know we do more than our official job title says. But it's really interesting to hear the different sort of perspectives as to what people are doing, from full-time coaching to full-time teaching, and fitting it all in around it. But it's still possible to do it all. Moving on, just because it comes up quite often, would anyone like to describe the difference between a coach and a trainer? I think we will go to Becky with this one.
Yeah, so we definitely get this question a lot. And to me, the biggest difference between a coach and a trainer is a trainer, you're doing one session, or maybe you're doing a series of sessions, but it's like, I'm here to train you how to do something, whether I'm training one person or 75 people or more. I'm here to train you how to do something, and then I'm going to move on. And if you reach out to me for further support, I might provide that, but otherwise I trained you and I move on. With coaching, you are working side by side with them through a cycle, through a challenge. You're not there to give them a one-time training. You are there. Maybe they came to a training and they need further support. So you're going to provide that further support for them. But it's about that continuous relationship and support to guide them through a challenge throughout a cycle and not a one-time thing.
Absolutely. Does anyone have anything to add to that?
And I think just to add on to that is maybe after the training, you give teachers action steps. So like, okay, we just finished this awesome training on Pear Deck and reading strategies. Here are some next steps. Try one lesson, report back to your teacher-based team on how it went. Have the coach come in and co-teach a lesson with you. Maybe email the coach for additional feedback. Like there's so many next steps for a teacher, but I think they need that listed out. So sometimes after the end of the training, I'll say like, here are some options if you need help. And I usually have them fill out a Google form with these action steps, because then I can follow up with what they need. Like, do you have any additional questions? Do you need more support? Do you need more resources? Did you not understand something? And then I can contact them and follow up with them to maybe start a coaching cycle, or maybe just a quick meeting with them to clear up any type of miscommunication that they might have had.
Absolutely. And we keep coming back to this idea that a coach is building those relationships, having that time to spend one-to-one. It's incredible how we just keep coming back to that. Scott or Chanel, do either of you have anything to add from your experiences?
I think I just agree, to be honest, Kat. I think, that was pretty much covered everything I would say. I agree.
Brilliant. And then, so one other question that we know keeps coming up is about the coaching cycle. So if you read the official Google curriculum, you should be coaching 8 to 10 people per cycle. And I think we all had an opinion on that one. So this is free for all. Who would like to answer? How many teachers do you coach in a cycle? There we go. Chanel seems to be muted.
Rookie mistake, sorry. So I coach 3. I think I'm trying to take on 3, and that seems to be the number that works for me in what I'm trying to achieve in a week. So at the moment, I'm trying to work across key stages. So 1 foundation, 1 key stage 1, and 1 key stage 2 to try and get a balance across the school.
Brilliant. So for Americans, that's 4 to 6 year olds. No, 4, and then 6 to 7 year olds. No, 3 to 5, isn't it? And then 5 to 7, then 7 to 11.
Yeah.
Foundation, key stage 1 and key stage 2.
1, key stage, yeah.
Scott, what about you? How many do you coach in a cycle?
Yeah, so likewise, 3. So over the last one, I actually did it via what we call teaching triangles. So we have a scheme where it's basically like peer observations, essentially. So teachers kind of observe each other and then just kind of feedback between themselves in a triangle and sort of learn from each other that way. So I actually led a teaching triangle theme and worked with 1 triangle. So I kind of individually coached each of the 3 over the cycle. And I found that worked for me around my other commitments. I think 3 is a sensible number for me anyway, in terms of what I do and the other stuff that I do. I think I was able to give that the time that it needed with 3. Yeah, so I would probably struggle to do more than 3 in 1 cycle, I would say.
And Steph?
Mine would probably be like, it depends on what we're focusing on, but anywhere from 3 to 6. And I mean, throughout that cycle, you're also helping other teachers that email you, reach out to you, but I'm really focused on those 3 to 6 teachers, focusing on their goals and walking them through the whole 5-step cycle.
So as a full-time coach, not 8 to 10 people. Becky?
Yeah, especially this year. We don't need to get into all the reasons for why COVID has caused issues with coaching this year, but it's been fewer. So 3 to 6 is realistic this year. And for the first time, I'm not able to go into teachers' classrooms. We haven't opened that up yet. So it has been fewer numbers, where next year will be very different. I'll be able to go back into teachers' classrooms and work with teachers. And so hitting the 8 to 10 is more realistic, because that 8 to 10 may include a team, and that team may be 4 teachers. So it is more realistic that way. I don't know how realistic it would be to say that you're coaching 10 teachers and you're meeting with each of them one time a week and you're getting into each of their classrooms one time a week and you're doing follow-up one time a week, I mean, that's right there, 30 hours. So I don't know how realistic that is, but we'll check back next year and see if it is realistic. I can see doing teams and partners and all of that to be able to hit that number, though.
So I think the point here is, if you are looking at doing coaching, don't get put off by the 8 to 10 hours a week, because nobody here is doing that at the moment.
No, it's very hard.
I can see Leslie in the chat said she only does 3. So that seems to be the norm. 3 seems to be a good number. Okay, lovely. We've got one final question from this, and then we'll move on to audience questions. I can see quite a few questions popping up now in the chat, so please keep sharing your questions for this wonderful panel. And it's always a good question, but what bright spots can you identify from your role as a coach? And I'm going to ask you all this one because I think it's really important, and it's one of the big sort of fundamentals of the whole coaching curriculum is those bright spots. So Becky, are you okay to start?
I sure am. So a bright spot for me would have to be anytime a teacher comes back and asks for another cycle, or anytime a teacher at the end of a cycle says, hey, can we share this out? Because I think others would really appreciate it. Like, they are almost marketing and advertising to other teachers the benefit of coaching. And to me, that's the greatest gift I could get in return, as a teacher going to their partner and saying, hey, have you tried working with Becky yet? Like, have you tried one of the cycles with her? You know, and so that's, I guess, for me, my biggest bright spot is when teachers are wanting to market it to their peers to say, this has been really helpful for me, or yes, please share this out. Others need this. So my bright spot's that.
Steph?
My bright spot's that, but I will create a new one. Because it just lights me up when teachers are so excited about a coaching cycle and they tell others, they tell their principal, they tell the school, and it just really, really makes my day when that happens. But my bright spot is just seeing teachers also improve and like be excited to teach again. This year's been hard for so many teachers, and when I can bring in a strategy and just see them go, oh my gosh, my kids can do this. My kids enjoyed that. Maybe they were struggling with classroom management, whatever their problem was, seeing them conquer it and get so excited for conquering it is like amazing.
Definitely. Chanel, what bright spots can you identify?
I think for me, it would be the ripple effect from being involved in the coaching cycle. You know, even from just doing one coaching cycle with staff. Now, we see staff creating their own projects and going to share with colleagues and calling into their classrooms to share their practice and scheduling co-teaching, and just seeing that ripple effect that kind of bounces around the school once staff become involved in the coaching project. You know, it's super. And the children's engagement and confidence and progress and how they're using technology, that kind of increases so quickly, so exponentially, that it's just brilliant to watch and to see.
It's really lovely. Scott?
Kind of difficult to follow all of that, isn't it? Because everybody's sort of stolen all of the big ones. I mean, absolutely, I agree with Becky. What, you know, in terms of people getting excited and people kind of sharing it among each other. But I think for me, what I really, really like and what I really like seeing is that forward impact on students and on learners. And when the learners are excited about something new and this teacher is trying something new and they're kind of like learning it together, and, you know, it's a really nice, inclusive kind of, you know, open, friendly atmosphere in a classroom. And if I'm in there and that's kind of happening, I think, yeah, for me, it's always back to the students. I think they're the ones that really show the impact of what you've done as a coach.
Absolutely. I'm seeing some really great comments in the chat there. I was just bringing some up while you were talking. It's just absolutely wonderful, the sort of overall effect that coaching can have. And I think that's one of the big positives, isn't it? Just being able to help people. There are a few questions coming up in the chat, so let me just bring a few of them onto the screen if I can find them. I've managed to lose already the one that I was going to bring up. There we go. So perhaps one for UK folks, because coaching is still a new thing. How do you approach your senior leadership team about your new role as a Google coach?
I'm happy to go, if you like. Well, actually, it was quite timely, to be honest, because I sit on our curriculum leadership team, and the curriculum leadership team decided that they would do kind of a coaching cycle amongst themselves. So they actually, the deputy principal and the senior leadership team actually ran kind of not a Google coaching cycle, but just a coaching, kind of a coaching cycle of their own. And then that all just linked in with what I was trying to achieve through the Google stuff. And then they were very on board, and then they were very happy for me to kind of take away what I'd learned in that, apply it to the Google thing. So I think for me, I was sort of lucky. Again, very supportive senior leadership team, and it all lined up very timely for me, I think.
Absolutely. Chanel?
Quite like what Scott said. For me, it was a timing thing as well. I every year have to submit an ICT action plan, which is the plan for how we're going to achieve the school goals every year. And getting on board with the coaching program meant that I was presenting that to my senior leadership team and my principal, and it was a perfect project to say by the end of this, the staff will have developed in these ways, and we anticipate the children will be and developing their skills as well, and being able to talk about the impactful use of technology. It was a win-win situation for everybody. So it was taken on board with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, brilliant. Becky and Steph, do either of you have anything to add about that?
Yeah, I think for me, it was also talking to, I'm going to call them principals, admin, not senior leadership, because I am Team USA. But just explaining them what a coaching cycle is. A lot of my admin didn't know what a coach even does. So just explaining to them, and then like showing research of how it did align and how it does really work. And just, they need to give me time. I'm not going to be able to fix something in 2 hours. I'm going to need maybe a couple months or a couple years, and then you'll see the change in your building. But just communicating with them that process of what a coach does and what a coaching cycle is, and how I'm able to support their teachers. Because sometimes admin were coming to me and they were like, this is my building goals. And I'm like, yes, but I'm here to support your teacher. So I will try to work that in. But if that's not where they're at, I'm not going to start there. So it might be like classroom management. That might be not your building goal, but they need to conquer that before they can get to your building goal. Yeah.
So not letting yourself be bullied by senior leadership into hitting their goals, but doing what's going to be best for teachers. Again, it's down to those relationships. I've got an opinion question here for you. And I don't know what it's like in the US, but in the UK, I've seen this come up fairly often. If you are a Google school, so it's just an opinion, do you still allow teachers staff to use Microsoft, or do you sort of force them to do one or the other, or do you do what's best for the staff?
Our staff was forced to Google, but that was not my decision, but it would have been my decision.
Keep it simple. Anyone have any other thoughts on that?
We kind of strongly suggest Google, I think, is probably the thing. We decided to give all of our staff over remote learning Microsoft laptops rather than Chromebooks. That was a very conscious decision, so that they do have access to the Microsoft products as well. But all of our training, all of our expectations from admin, senior leadership, would be that it is done in Google and via Google Classroom, and that things are done in docs and collaboratively. And, if anybody shares a Microsoft file, it is a bit like, why are you doing that? I want to work collaboratively on it. I want to just open it in docs. So yeah, the option is still there, but to be honest, I would say it's very little use of Microsoft across the college.
And I think too, with that question, there's more to that question, because if you allow all the websites in the world in your district, if you allow all of the different programs into your district, people are going to expect you as a tech coach to know all those programs. And so what we did is we created a tech like process where programs have to get approved. Teachers can't just use whatever they want. And we are like so thankful we put that in place because of FERPA, because of COPA, and all of these different privacy laws. Like there's some websites that students should not be on because of ads or whatever. And so you have to protect the students. And so because that's such a priority, having this tech process allowed us to streamline. I now don't need to know how to use Nearpod, Pear Deck. Like we just buy Pear Deck. That's what we support. So even just creating like a process of what can your teachers use? And we had to pull that from our principals' budgets. Before I became in this position, principals could just buy whatever they wanted for their schools. Now there's a streamlined process, and now I'm able to support it district-wide, where I'm talking to some people. Like today I was in a meeting with another district, and they were like, yeah, our principals buy this, and then another building buys Nearpod, and you cannot support that as a tech coach. That's so much on your plate. So you need to have these crucial conversations with your principals, with those admins, and maybe develop a process.
One thing I always say to schools is what's facing the students. If the students are using Google, the staff should be using Google and creating their resources on Google. Otherwise, they're putting the children at a disadvantage. It's so important that everything's consistent. Otherwise, what's the point? Anyone else have any more thoughts? I've got another question for you all.
I would just add to that. I mean, every state here is different in their laws and what's allowed. So if you are looking to become a tech coach or a coach of any sort, make sure you understand what those tech laws are. Regardless of where you are, you need to understand what those tech laws are, and don't be pushing programs that aren't district approved. It's not going to look good for you. So find best fit programs for the need, but don't go against the grain in that way.
And obviously in the UK, GDPR is quite prominent. So do check what's got a robust GDPR policy and what doesn't. So for example, a lot of schools in the UK can't use Pear Deck because they don't have a robust GDPR statement. So yeah, just be conscious. So our next question from Dave is, on average, how long are you spending coaching in a session at a time, just to try and reduce teacher workload? Anyone got any thoughts?
It depends on the teacher's planning schedule. And sometimes that like with COVID, that kind of varied just because of our specials schedule. So when teachers were to get a planning, the gym teacher might have been out for quarantine or something. So it did vary. In a typical year, usually I meet with the teachers during their planning time, and that's about an hour to 40 minutes. And I try to give them some time to get ready for the day. So I usually start the meeting like 15 minutes after they're supposed to be there. And then that way we can talk and plan. But I usually meet with them once a day. And then if I am coaching with them, I'm co-teaching with them in their classroom. And so that model might look different. I might be with them modeling the lesson and they're watching me teach it. Then the second period, we're co-teaching it together. We're both talking. And then the third period, I'm kind of watching them and assisting as needed. And then we're reflecting throughout the day. I love those days because I'm with the teacher all day. I actually get a lunch those days because I get their lunch. And it's a lot of fun just to kind of be in the classroom with them. And then we'll have like a follow-up meeting on like what's next, how did it go, what next steps do we need to do, thoughts on that.
Brilliant. Anyone else?
Mine would kind of vary between maybe 20 minutes and 40 minutes. So depending on where I am in my day of teaching and where the teacher is in theirs, we try and kind of grab, 20 minutes for the meeting, at least, 20 minutes. Or if I'm going into co-teach or to watch what they're doing in the class, maybe gather some data, that could be up to 40 minutes.
Brilliant. So it's slightly different. And Dave sort of clarified there, thinking of his own teaching load. So obviously he's a teacher as well. And it is something we've got to be conscious of, particularly those of us in the UK who aren't full-time coaches. Are there any more questions?
There's one I really want to answer.
Go on.
It's about pickup lines.
Oh, I missed that one. Sorry.
I love this question. So it says, like, what are some of your go-to coaching pickup lines? And yes, I have them. It's, I miss your students, or I miss students and I want to teach again. I want to see the cool things you're doing. And like those kind of words always work. It's never like, I want to evaluate you teaching, or I want to see how you're doing on reflection practices. Like it's always like, I want to come in and just observe or hang out with you for the day because I really miss the kids.
Yeah. Anyone else got any good ways of starting their coaching cycles?
I find I can save you time quite good one as well. I can save you time. They all like that.
Brilliant.
I like that. I've used a few times, probably more than a few, that I want to grow in my own coaching practice. So would you mind joining for a cycle to help me grow in my own practice? Because I am still working on this craft and I'm trying out something new. So I need teacher volunteers, and it's really not going to add to your plate. I'm going to take off of your plate. That usually always works. And it's actually helped me a lot. So I let them know what I've learned each cycle.
I love this. Chanel, have you got any pickup lines, or are you nice and simple?
Yeah, I think maybe from this cycle, I remember saying to one of the teachers, I want to make you more visible. You need to be more visible in the school. So we use that as kind of our starting point as to why they kind of weren't being seen in all their talents and creativity and that they have, that I see passing in the corridor.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. I'm loving all the comments. People are loving the pickup lines. Keep them coming. In the chat, please let us know what your pickup lines are. This is great. I like Judy just saying, let's try something fun. Brilliant.
This I would not use with coaching, but this one, if you're looking for a hot date, you could use this one. Hey girl, is your name Google? Because you've got everything I'm searching for. Again, I want to use that for coaching though.
Oh my. Have you been hanging out with Abid too much?
Abid has never used a pickup line on me. I'm going to say that on air. We do not have a loving relationship.
That's funny. There was another question. Do you want me to pull it up quick?
Yes,
that I don't know that we got to. It was from Aaron saying, what is the very first step to becoming a tech coach, like what we're discussing here, instead of just becoming an instructional coach or a coach, but to becoming a tech coach? So, yeah.
I would say go through the Google Coaches program. That really brought up my vocabulary. It helped me build my PLN, join the EC chat that Global and Becky leads. So check those out.
Absolutely. Anyone else got any thoughts on that one?
I would say just start showing how you can help with technology around your school and ask permission to try out some coaching cycles, talk to your admin, let them know you're interested, because sometimes we assume that admin or senior leadership knows what we're looking to do, and they don't always know what's out there. So share it.
Yeah, I'd say it's very important to, if you're starting out, to make sure that people know what you're doing and you're not just randomly jumping in and helping teachers without giving yourself the time. As we said a bit earlier, it's really important to get that admin, senior leadership buy-in so they let you coach properly. So both Chanel and Scott highlighted that they're really well supported in their school, but if your school's not going to give you time to meet with teachers, then it's not going to be a success. If they're not backing what you're doing, it's not going to be a success. Any more thoughts?
I think of what Scott said earlier, to start with someone that you're comfortable working with in your first cycle. Start with a friend, a mate, someone that you can be relaxed and kind of begin that journey together, because you can't just hit the ground running and know everything to start. It's a learning process for both the coach and the coachee.
Brilliant. I can see we've just had shared in the chat, the open chat group. So if anyone's thinking about becoming a chat and just wants to join a group of like-minded individuals who are either looking to become a coach or already coaches, please do sign up. That's hosted by the lovely Becky. So
it's a full team effort, but yeah, there's quite a few of us. I know Shannon's in the chat. She's also one of the leads for EC Open Chat. And we're going to be starting the next cycle here coming this fall. So it is nice to be able to meet and collaborate with others going through the same process as you are. Yeah. And there's no requirement that you have to be a licensed teacher to become a coach.
There we go. Frederick there saying we need to destigmatize coaching. So I'm not sure if there is a stigma in the US. In the UK it doesn't exist. So, oh, okay.
there's a stigma. And I mean, the fact that it doesn't exist might also be like, this is new, but it's typically that it's evaluative and that coaches are supposed to be the experts and they're the ones who come in and find what you're doing wrong and tell you what you're doing wrong. And we need to show that that's not what coaches do. So we're there to be that support.
Excellent. Yeah, so any more questions, please let us know. I can just see some really great comments. I'm seeing lovely things in the chat. Really great conversation. I'm not going to bring them all up, but it's really nice to see so many people connecting and discussing this. So at that point, I think we are almost done. Thank you so much for giving up your time. Wonderful, helpful people. Becky, Stephanie, Chanel and Scott. It's been really great to have you here. Just before we finish up, do you all have any parting words of wisdom for all our potential coaches?
Build relationships.
Take that first step. Go for it.
Not every cycle is going to end with the success that you were hoping for. And that's okay, as long as you have that relationship with that teacher. Like, fail forward.
Yeah, I would say believe that you can.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, on that note, in that case, I am going to pick a random video to end on. So thank you all for joining us tonight. It's been absolutely great having you all here. So farewell.